Welcome to the second of our series of short talks on essay writing for Logos One. We acknowledge the traditional owners and custodians of the land our campuses are built on. Here is something about researching your topic. So, having chosen your topic, your first step is to read and make notes on the required text, which you'll find linked in the question in your course outline. The other place where you can find useful information of an academic quality is in the recommended resources. So you'll find this in the taskbar on the left of Blackboard for Logos. And there it is, you just click on recommended resources. You'll find there are more resources for some topics than others. One example of a place where you'll find plenty of resources there is in the topic of philosophy and science, where there are actually 10 linked resources there. And bear in mind, you're only required to use 2 to 4 other sources for this essay. The other place where you can logically go to get other sources of information of an academic quality is the university library. So you just open up the library homepage and you'll find the search box right in front of you, and you can simply type in the topic word. If you wish, you could add the author as well. You could put in Aristotle, politics, right government. In this case, the topic of moral subjectivism. And you'll find that there are plenty of results that come up. Far too many for you to read. So one suggestion I have for you, particularly if you're short of time, is in addition to using the search word bar, you go underneath to where you can identify the type of source. And I suggest you select book chapters. What that means is that someone's put together an edited book. They've edited the whole book, but they've invited other experts to write different chapters. So, for example, it might be a whole book about Aristotle's politics, or a whole book maybe about types of government, and there might be one chapter about Aristotle's views. Or in this case, we've looked at moral subjectivism, and as you can see there, those are just the first 3 results, but they look like they would be relevant to someone writing this essay. And it's just a chapter. It means normally it would be 20-25 pages long, so you wouldn't have to read a whole book. Okay, so you can choose book chapter. If you want to choose book, you can identify that tab as well, and you'll find plenty of books that you could skim through. And again, once you open them up, have a look at the chapters. You might not have time to read the whole book, but choose a few chapters. If you find you're not getting much out of it, move on, because there are plenty of other books there. The other place where you could go is to journal articles. Now, journal articles are really written by experts and normally on very specific topics. Okay, so in this case, I've put in that topic there, and you can see that a number of articles come up that look like they could be relevant. Journal articles are short, okay, again, maybe 20 pages long. They tend to be harder to read. Okay, so you might, if you do look at journal articles, you might be selective in which parts you read or how much you read of them. Okay, so you can use the library and you can put in words in the search bar, experiment with more or fewer words in the search bar, and also experiment with the type of source. Okay. As you're reading, don't lose sight of the question, and I talked about that in the first of these presentations. So for part 1, you're mainly going to be just reading the text, and you're going to be trying to answer the question. Okay, so for this one, we needed to know what Aristotle's arguments were on what made government right. Okay, so when you're reading, you're trying to pick out those particular things. Okay, the book is like a supermarket, but you don't need to buy everything on the shelf. Okay, you need to look for the things on your shopping list, and your shopping list is essentially your question. Okay, so you go through and you make notes on different points that are going to be useful for you in writing your 3 or 4 paragraphs for part 1. It's possible that you could draw on another book as well, even for part 1, because, for example, there are a number of guides to Aristotle's Politics, and they might give you some additional points. Okay, but mainly for part 1, you're going to be summarizing what you believe to be the main argument, answering the question that you've been given. Okay, for part 2, you need to take a position for or against that argument that you've summarized in part 1. And here, okay, you might start off with your point, and you might draw on something from a recommended resource. Okay, and as you can see, I'm recommending that you try to organize your notes around the points that you're going to make in the essay, because in the essay you need to support your point of view with 3 or 4 different arguments. So try and organize points that are going to help you support your argument. And again, as you look through the book, try to pick out points that will support each argument you make. So by the time you start writing this paragraph, you've already got ideas that you can use. In a sense, you've got your ingredients together, and now you're ready to cook. Because if you've tried cooking something without getting the ingredients on the kitchen table, it can be a bit frustrating, because you're trying to cook one thing and then I have to go to the supermarket, I forgot to get eggs. You don't want that when you're writing your essay. Ideally, you want to have your notes organized around the paragraphs that you're going to write. And that is actually the topic of the 3rd presentation too. So, I'm done with researching the topic. I've already mentioned the next one coming up is paragraph planning. Maybe see you there. Thanks a lot for your time.